The year was 2157, when humanity first met the Ardelians. Their ships appeared suddenly near Jupiter's orbit one quiet Tuesday morning, causing brief panic until their peaceful intentions became clear. The Ardelians looked somewhat like tall humans with silvery skin that reflected light in beautiful patterns. They were travelers and scientists, not warriors. At first, people on Earth were scared. The government kept meetings secret for months while they figured out if these aliens were dangerous. But soon videos of the Ardelians singing their strange, beautiful songs spread across the internet. They brought gifts of plants that could grow in salt water and medicines that could heal injuries in hours. Trust grew slowly between the two worlds. The Ardelians shared their amazing biological science, helping Earth solve its worst food shortages. Humans taught them about our metals and engines. Within 5 years, Ardelian gardens bloomed in desert regions, and human engineering helped. The aliens built faster ships. Lee Sunho, a farmer from a small village who had lost everything in the Great Drought, watched his new crops grow tall under the Ardelian farming techniques. "They saved us," he told reporters. "My children have full stomachs for the first time in years." The friendship between humans and Ardelians wasn't just about technology. Cultural exchanges brought Ardelian music to Earth's concert halls, while human art and stories traveled to Ardelian worlds. Some humans even visited their planets, returning with tales of floating cities and forests where the trees communicated through light. But peace never lasts forever in the galaxy. Reports came from distant Ardelian colonies about ships belonging to something called the Vorg Imperium. These massive black vessels would appear at the edges of star systems, broadcasting messages demanding submission. "We have ruled this sector for 10,000 years, the messages said. "Bow to the Vorg or be erased from existence." The Ardelians had no real weapons. Their entire civilization had developed without the concept of war. When they nervously told Earth's leaders about these threats, they expected sympathy but little else. They didn't understand humans very well yet. Behind closed doors, Earth's Defense Council met through the night. "The Ardelians saved millions of our people from starvation," Admiral Kang argued. "We cannot abandon them now." Commander Park Ji-ho received his orders 3 days later. He stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution, Earth's most advanced warship, watching his crew prepare for departure. The ship looked deceptively small from the outside, its sleek, dark hull hiding weapon systems that had never been tested in actual combat. "Are you nervous, Commander?" asked his first officer, Lieutenant Yoon Park smiled slightly. "The Ardelians are our friends, and friends protect each other." The Retribution led a fleet of 5 warships, officially described as an advisory force, to help the Ardelians set up early warning systems. What the public announcements didn't mention were the hidden weapon platforms, the next-generation shield generators, or the contingent of Earth's most elite soldiers aboard each vessel. As they approached Ardelian space, Park spent hours studying everything known about the Vorg. Not much information existed, just scattered reports and a few grainy images. They appeared to be reptilian, with technology far beyond Earth's, or so everyone thought. What the Vorg didn't know was that humans had been preparing for alien threats since before they reached space. Old movies about alien invasions had inspired generation after generation of engineers and soldiers to develop defenses for precisely this situation. The Ardelians welcomed the human fleet with a celebration. Their ambassador, a tall figure named Tel, hosted Commander Park in the orbital station above their homeworld. "Your presence brings comfort to our people," Tel said, the translator converting his musical speech. "But we fear your ships may be at risk if the Vorg truly come." Park looked out the window at his fleet, small against the backdrop of space. "Don't worry about us," he said quietly. "Humans have always been good at surprising those who underestimate us." That night, as Park returned to the Retribution, he received a message from Earth. The Vorg had been detected entering a nearby system where an Ardelian research colony was located. Their threats had turned to action. Park called his officers together. "This is what we prepared for," he told them. "The Vorg think they're hunting sheep. They don't realize the sheep have wolves watching over them." He gave the order, and the human fleet moved silently toward the edge of the system, where they would wait and watch. The Retribution's engines powered down to minimal levels as they drifted behind a field of asteroids. "Now we see what these Vorg are really made of," Park whispered to himself as the stars slowly moved past the view screen. "And soon they'll see what humans are made of too." The Vorg ships entered the Ardelian colony system with no warning or message. 3 massive warships, each shaped like a jagged arrowhead and stretching nearly 2 miles from end to end, appeared suddenly from hyperspace. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. "Begin the cleansing," ordered Grand Admiral Carr of the Vorg Imperium. He stood on his command bridge, tall and imposing with scaled skin and eyes that never blinked. "Let the weak learn their place in our universe." The first plasma bolts struck an orbital station above Ardella Prime, the largest colony. The station, home to thousands of scientists and their families, had no shields. It broke apart in seconds, scattering debris and bodies into the cold vacuum. On the planet below, Ardelians looked up in horror as their sky filled with fire. The colony had no defenses, no bunkers, not even a basic early warning system. They had never needed such things. For generations, their people had explored the stars in peace, believing others would share their gentle nature. They were wrong. Vorg drop ships descended through the atmosphere, landing troops that moved methodically through the streets. These soldiers weren't interested in conquest, only elimination. Ardelian music halls and garden domes collapsed under heavy weapons fire. Families running for safety were cut down without mercy. "Please, we surrender," the colony governor begged. Over an emergency channel. "We have no weapons, there are children here." The Vorg didn't bother responding. Their bombardment continued. Similar scenes played out on 2 other colony worlds. The Vorg fleet split into 3 attack groups, each targeting a different planet. By the end of the first day, more than 2 million Ardelians were dead. Distress. Calls flooded every communications channel. "Help us, they're killing everyone." "This is New Haven Colony, we need immediate evacuation. Anyone who can hear this, please save our children." The messages reached the Ardelian homeworld, where their leaders watched in stunned silence. They had no military, no defense fleet, nothing to send against the invaders. Some suggested immediate surrender to the Vorg, hoping to prevent more bloodshed. The messages also reached Commander Park's fleet, hidden behind an asteroid field at the edge of the system. Park stood perfectly still as he listened to the desperate pleas, his hands gripping the command rail so tightly, his knuckles turned white. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, "the Ardelian civilian death toll is rising by the minute." Park nodded once. "Record everything, every atrocity, every victim. We'll need it later." Lieutenant Yoon approached cautiously. "Commander, shouldn't we engage? We could save thousands if we attack now." "And lose our only advantage," Park replied, quietly. "The Vorg don't know our capabilities. They don't know we're here. That's the only edge we have against their numbers." On the main Vorg command ship, Admiral Carr received a report from one of his sensor officers. "Grand Admiral, we've detected unusual energy readings behind the asteroid field, possibly ships." "Whose ships?" Carr demanded. "Unknown, sir, but intercepted communications suggest they might be from Earth." The Admiral made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Earth? That primitive backwater? We've studied their broadcasts. They're still fighting among themselves with crude projectile weapons and using fossil fuels. They're no threat to us." "But, sir, continue the operation. If these humans interfere, destroy them as well. They'll learn their place like all the others." Behind the asteroid field, Commander Park gathered his officers in the Retribution's war room. Holographic displays showed the positions of all Vorg vessels and their attack patterns. "They're following standard orbital bombardment protocols," Park observed. "See how they maintain formation even during atmospheric entry? They're disciplined but predictable." He pointed to specific weaknesses in the Vorg ship's designs. "Their shield generators are external, here and here, and their main engines have minimal protection, probably because they've never needed it. Nobody has ever fought back effectively." Lieutenant Yoon studied the display, frowning. "Even with these weaknesses, sir, they outnumber us 3-to-1 in capital ships and at least 5-to-1 in fighters." "True," Park admitted, "but they've never faced Earth ships before. They don't know about our adaptive shield technology or our quantum-locked targeting systems. He turned to face his team. More importantly, they've never faced humans before. Throughout our history, we've had to fight enemies bigger and stronger than ourselves. We've gotten very good at it. The officers nodded grimly. Humans had nearly destroyed themselves many times before reaching the stars. The price of that violent history was terrible, but it had forged them into warriors, unlike any the galaxy had seen. We'll split into 3. Attack groups, Park continued, each focusing on one Vorg command ship. Communications will remain in quantum entanglement mode only. They won't be able to detect or jam our signals. He looked at each officer in turn. The Ardelians can't fight, that's not who they are, but it's exactly who we are. We protect our own. We stand for those who can't stand for themselves. Park walked to the viewport and looked out at the distant flashes of light, where Vorg weapons were still pounding the Ardelian worlds. Power up all systems, he ordered. But keep us hidden until my signal. When we move together, without hesitation. The human fleet began its silent preparations. Engineers made final adjustments to weapon systems. Pilots ran through combat drills in their minds. Marines checked their armor one last time, and still the Vorg continued their slaughter, unaware that behind the asteroids, humanity's warships were about to teach them a terrible lesson about underestimating Earth. All ships, this is Commander. Park, execute Plan Thunderbolt on my mark. His voice was calm as he gave the order that would reveal humanity's presence to the Vorg. 3, 2, 1 mark. The 5 human warships emerged from behind the asteroid field in perfect formation. Their engines flared to life with a blue-white glow, pushing them forward at speeds that seemed impossible for vessels of their size. The ESS Retribution led the charge, its sleek hull gleaming under the distant starlight. On the Vorg command ship, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. "Grand Admiral," a sensor officer called out. "Multiple vessels approaching from Sector 7. Admiral Carr turned lazily. "Show me." The main screen displayed the approaching Earth fleet. Carr laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. 5 ships? Against our fleet? These fools seek a glorious death. "Sir, their energy signatures are unusual," the officer added nervously. Carr waved away the concern. "Destroy them quickly. We have a cleansing to complete." The Vorg fleet turned its massive weapons toward the human ships. Energy beams lanced out across space, powerful enough to tear through any known shield technology. The Admiral smiled, expecting to see the human vessels shatter into debris. Instead, the beams hit the human shields and bent. Like light through water, they curved away harmlessly. The shields glowed briefly, but held firm. "Impossible," Carr hissed. "Target them again! Full power!" Aboard the Retribution, Commander Park stood calmly as his ship absorbed the Vorg attack. "Adaptive shield frequency is holding," reported his defense officer. "They can't touch us, sir," Park nodded. "Now let's show them what we can do. All ships initiate attack pattern Epsilon. Target their weapon systems and engines only." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The Retribution and the frigate Dawn. Breaker headed directly for the Vorg flagship. The other ships paired off to target the remaining enemy vessels. What happened next was unlike anything the Vorg had ever experienced in their thousands of years of conquest. The human ships moved, with incredible precision, sliding between Vorg energy blasts like dancers. When they fired their weapons, they didn't use crude energy beams or explosive projectiles. Instead, focused gravity pulses shot from the human ships, invisible to the eye, but devastating in effect. These weapons didn't try to penetrate shields. They warped space itself around specific parts of the Vorg vessels, crushing weapon mounts and engine ports from the outside in. "What is this?" Carr roared as his bridge trembled around him. "What weapons are they using?" "Unknown, sir. Our shields are still at full power, but our main cannons are being crushed." The officer's voice cracked with fear. Park watched from his command chair as the battle unfolded exactly as planned. "Lieutenant Yoon, status report. All targets being neutralized according to plan, sir," Yoon replied. "Vorg weapon systems at 30% and falling. Their engines are being systematically disabled. No casualties reported on our side." Park turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all Vorg ships. The officer worked her console. "Channel open, sir." Park stood, his voice firm as he addressed the enemy. "Attention, Vorg vessels. This is Commander Park Jiho of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your ships have been disabled. Your weapons are failing. You are ordered to cease all hostilities against Ardelian worlds immediately. On the Vorg flagship, systems were failing across the board. For the first time in his career, Admiral Carr felt fear creep into his cold blood. "Who are you?" he demanded over the open channel. "How can primitive humans possess such technology? We've monitored your world for decades. Your entertainment broadcasts show you fighting with basic weapons. You barely have space travel." Park's lips curved into a small smile. "You confused our entertainment for reality, Admiral. Humanity has been perfecting warfare for millennia, and we protect our friends." The 5 human ships continued their deadly dance around the Vorg fleet. Precision shots disabled weapon after weapon. Targeted gravity pulses crushed engine ports, leaving the massive black ships drifting helplessly. "Sir," Lieutenant Yoon reported, "we've neutralized 80% of their offensive capabilities. Their ships are effectively dead in space." Park nodded. "And the Ardelian colonies?" "No further bombardment since we engaged, Commander. Vorg ground forces are retreating to their landing craft. On the surface of Ardella Prime, the surviving colonists watched in awe as the Vorg ships that had been destroying their world suddenly went dark. The soldiers who had been slaughtering civilians abruptly turned and rushed back to their transports, clearly receiving emergency evacuation orders. An Ardelian child looked up at the sky, pointing at tiny flashes of light where the battle raged. "What's happening?" His father, clothing torn and face streaked with dust, smiled for the first time in days. "The humans came for us, just like they promised." Back in space, Admiral Carr stared at the human commander on his view screen. "This is impossible," he growled. "Earth is a backwater world barely out of its Stone Age." "Another misconception," Park replied evenly. "We let the galaxy see what we wanted them to see. After all, it's easier to defend your home when potential enemies underestimate you." He leaned forward slightly. "Now, Admiral, here's what's going to happen. Your remaining forces will withdraw from Ardelian space immediately. Any Vorg ship that fires another shot will be destroyed rather than disabled. Is that clear?" "Admiral." Carr's scales darkened with rage. "This isn't overhuman. The Vorg Imperium spans hundreds of systems. We will return with a force that will turn your precious Earth into a smoking cinder." Park's expression didn't change. "I wouldn't recommend that. What you've seen today is only a small fraction of Earth's defense capability. The ships you faced are simply our advanced scouts." This was a carefully calculated exaggeration, but the Vorg had no way of knowing that. They could only judge based on the incredible technology they'd just witnessed. "Admiral," Park continued, "I suggest you take this message back to your leaders. The Ardelians are under Earth's protection now. Any future aggression against them will be considered an act of war against humanity. We would prefer peace, but as you've learned today, we excel at war when necessary." Around them, the disabled Vorg ships were powering up emergency systems, preparing for a retreat. Lieutenant Yoon approached Park as the channel closed. "Do you think they'll be back, sir?" Park watched the Vorg flagship struggling to maneuver with its damaged engines. "Yes, but next time we'll be ready with more than just 5 ships." As the human fleet regrouped, a message came in from the Ardelian homeworld. Their council of elders appeared on screen, their silvery faces showing a mix of gratitude and disbelief. "Commander Park," the head elder said, "you saved countless lives today. The Ardelian people will forever be in humanity's debt." Park shook his head. "There is no debt between friends, Elder. We did what anyone would do." The elder's expression suggested he knew better. "Not anyone, Commander. Only humans would face such odds to protect a people not their own." As the Vorg fleet limped away in retreat, Park knew this was just the beginning. But for today it was enough that the Ardelians were safe and that the Vorg had learned a valuable lesson about humanity's resolve. "Set course for Ardella Prime," he ordered. "We have wounded to help and friends to protect." 3 days after Commander Park's victory against the Vorg fleet, he stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution, watching his crew assist Ardelian survivors. The initial battle had been won, but at a terrible cost. millions of Ardelians were dead, and 3 colony worlds still remained under Vorg occupation. "Commander," called out his communications officer, "we're detecting multiple hyperspace windows, opening at the edge of the system." Park tensed. "Vorg reinforcements?" "No, sir." The officer's face broke into a smile. "They're ours." Outside the view screen, space itself seemed to fold as one ship after another emerged from hyperspace. Not 5 ships this time, but 50. At their center flew the ESS Baekdu, Earth's largest warship, a dreadnought nearly 3 miles long with enough firepower to level continents. "Incoming transmission from the Baekdu, sir," the communications officer announced. The main screen filled with the image of a stern-faced older man wearing an admiral's uniform adorned with combat ribbons. Admiral Kim Tae-woo, commander of Earth's 7th Fleet and veteran of the Mars conflict, a man whose tactical genius was legendary among Earth's military. "Commander Park," the admiral said with a slight nod. "Congratulations on your victory. Earth is proud of what you've accomplished with such limited resources." "Thank you, Admiral," Park replied. "But 3 Ardelian worlds remain under Vorgi. Control. Their occupation forces are dug in and we're receiving reports of continued atrocities." Admiral Kim's eyes narrowed. "Not for much longer. The Security Council has authorized full military intervention. The Ardelians are officially under Earth's protection now." Park couldn't hide his surprise. Earth rarely committed its full military might beyond the solar system. "The entire 7th Fleet, sir. And the 3rd. They'll be arriving within the hour." The Admiral's mouth formed a grim line. "The Vorg wanted to see humanity's true face. We're going to give them exactly what they asked for." Within 12 hours, over 100 Earth warships had gathered in the system. The Ardelians watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed its true military power. These weren't the primitive people the galaxy believed them to be, the ones who supposedly fought amongst themselves with simple weapons. This was a unified force with technology far beyond what anyone had suspected. On the bridge of the Baekdu, Admiral Kim met with his senior officers to plan the counter-offensive. Commander Park had been called in to share his insights on Vorg tactics. "They rely heavily on intimidation," Park explained, pointing to holographic displays of Vorg ship movements. "When that fails, they fall back on brute force rather than adapting their strategy. Their technology is advanced, but their thinking is rigid." Admiral Kim studied the display. "Then we'll show them something they've never seen before. Lieutenant Cho, explain Operation Thunderclap." A young officer stepped forward. "Yes, Admiral. Operation Thunderclap will target all 3 occupied worlds simultaneously. Instead of conventional attacks, we'll use our phase shift technology to insert small teams directly onto the surface, bypassing their orbital defenses." "Phase shift?" Park asked. "That technology is still experimental." Admiral Kim smiled thinly. "Not anymore. While the rest of the galaxy thought we were fighting among ourselves, we were preparing for threats exactly like the Vorg." The plan moved forward at lightning speed. The massive Earth fleet split into 3 battle groups, each targeting a different occupied world. The Vorg defenders, expecting a traditional space battle, positioned their ships in standard defensive formations. They were completely unprepared for what came next. Instead of engaging the Vorg ships, the Earth vessels seemed to flicker like candles in wind. Using technology that bent light around their hulls, they became nearly invisible to Vorg sensors. While the confused enemy commanders tried to locate them, smaller Earthcraft silently approached the planets. On the occupied world of New Haven, Vorg Commander Grell stalked through the ruins of what had been the Ardelian Capitol building. "Report!" he barked at his subordinate. "Still no sign of the human fleet, Commander," the officer replied nervously. "They appeared on long-range sensors, then vanished," Grell snarled. "Impossible! Find them!" At that moment, the building trembled. Slightly. Grell looked up, expecting to see bombardment from orbit. Instead, the air itself seemed to tear open, as Earth soldiers in powered combat armor stepped through shimmering portals directly into the Vorg command center. Similar scenes played out across all 3 occupied worlds. Earth's forces didn't waste time fighting through planetary defenses. They simply appeared behind enemy lines at key strategic locations. The phase shift technology allowed them to bypass conventional defenses entirely. "This can't be happening," screamed a Vorg officer, as Earth Marines materialized inside his supposedly secure bunker. "Humans don't have this technology. That's what we wanted you to think," replied the Marine sergeant as she placed him under arrest. Within hours, key Vorg command centers on all 3 worlds had been captured. Without leadership, their occupation forces fell into disarray. As they tried to retreat to their ships, they found Earth's fleet waiting for them, shields up and weapons ready. Admiral Kim watched from the Baekdu as the last Vorg resistance on New Haven collapsed. "Open a channel to all Vorg forces," he ordered. When the channel opened, he spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-woo of the Earth Defense Force. Your occupation of Ardelian worlds has ended. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." On the Vorg command ship, their Supreme Commander Vrax watched in disbelief as reports of defeat came in from all 3 worlds simultaneously. "How could this happen?" he demanded. "Earth is a primitive world. We've monitored their broadcasts for decades." His intelligence officer looked up from a data terminal, face pale with realization. "Sir, I believe we've been deceived. Analysis suggests that the broadcasts we intercepted from Earth were deliberately crafted to make them appear less advanced than they truly are." "What? Explain." "Their entertainment, their news reports, even their scientific announcements, they all portrayed Earth as divided, technologically limited, and focused on internal conflicts." The officer swallowed hard. "But evidence suggests they've actually been unified under a single defense force for generations, developing technologies in secret while showing the galaxy a carefully constructed facade." Vrax slammed his fist down. "An entire planet engaged in deception." "A wise strategy, sir," the officer admitted reluctantly. "If you appear weak, potential enemies underestimate you. The humans have been preparing for threats like us all along." As Vorg ships surrendered or were disabled one by one, Admiral Kim hosted an Ardelian delegation aboard the Baekdu. The alien representatives stared in awe at the advanced technology that humans had kept hidden from the galaxy. "Why did you hide all this?" asked the Ardelian ambassador. "You could have been the dominant power in this sector of space." "Admiral," Kim gazed out at the stars. "Because dominance was never our goal, Ambassador. Peace was. But our history taught us that peace must sometimes be protected through strength. We didn't hide our capabilities out of shame, but out of wisdom." As liberation forces landed on the Ardelian worlds, bringing medical supplies and aid to the survivors, humanity's true nature was revealed not just in their warfare, but in their compassion. The same ships that had defeated the Vorg now delivered food and medicine. The same soldiers who had fought the invaders now helped rebuild homes. "We came prepared for war," Admiral Kim told his officers as they watched the relief efforts. "But we will stay to ensure peace." The massive Earth fleet moved through space in perfect formation, closing in on their final target. The Vorg Imperial flagship, the Indomitable, was cornered against the edge of an asteroid field with nowhere left to run. Its once gleaming black hull was now scarred from multiple battles. Several of its weapon systems hung dark and lifeless. From the bridge of the ESS Baekdu, Admiral Kim Tae-woo watched the enemy vessel with calm, steady eyes. After 3 weeks of fighting, the Vorg forces had been pushed out of Ardelian space entirely. This flagship was the last significant Vorg presence in the sector. "Target locked, Admiral," reported his weapons officer. "All systems ready. We can end this with one synchronized barrage." The bridge crew waited for the order to fire. They had seen the footage from the liberated colonies, the mass graves, the destroyed cities, the countless civilian casualties. No one would question the decision to destroy the Vorg command ship. Instead, Admiral Kim said something unexpected. "Open a communication channel." The crew exchanged glances. Commander Park, who stood beside the Admiral, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Channel open, sir," said the communications officer. Admiral Kim straightened his uniform and faced the screen. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-woo of the Earth Defense Force to Vorg Imperial Flagship Indomitable. Your fleet has been defeated. Your forces have been driven from Ardelian space. You are surrounded with no possibility of escape or reinforcement." The screen flickered. then revealed the face of Supreme Commander Vrax. His scaled skin looked dull, and his yellow eyes had lost their fierce glow. Behind him, the Vorg bridge was dimly lit by emergency power systems. "If you're contacting us to demand our surrender before you destroy us, human, then get on with it," Vrax said. "The Vorg do not beg." Admiral Kim shook his head. "We're not going to destroy your ship, Commander. We're offering you a chance to negotiate a peace treaty." Vrax's expression changed from resignation to suspicion. "Peace? After what we did to your allies? You have us at your mercy. Why would you offer peace now?" "Because humans understand something that perhaps the Vorg do not," Kim replied. "We understand the cost of vengeance. Our own history is filled with cycles of violence and retribution that nearly destroyed us many times over." The Admiral stepped closer to the screen. "We could annihilate your flagship. We could hunt down every Vorg ship in this sector. We have the power to do so now. But what would that accomplish except to ensure that someday, somewhere, this conflict would begin again?" On the Vorg ship, Supreme Commander Vrax looked around at his damaged bridge, at the tired faces of his crew. For the first time in his long military career, he considered an option other than fighting to the death. "What are your terms?" he asked finally. 24 hours later, representatives from Earth, the Ardelian worlds, and the Vorg Imperium gathered aboard the neutral space station orbiting Ardella Prime. The station had been partially rebuilt. After the initial Vorg attack, its transparent dome looking out over the recovering planet below. Admiral Kim led the Earth delegation, while Commander Park stood at his side. The Ardelians were represented by High Chancellor Lin, an elder whose family had been among the casualties on New Haven colony. The Vorg sent Supreme Commander Vrax himself, along with 3 of his senior officers. The negotiations were tense, but productive. By the end of the day, a treaty had taken shape. The Vorg would withdraw completely from the sector. A protective zone would be established around all Ardelian territories, monitored by Earth defense satellites. Any violation of this zone would be considered an act of war against both the Ardelians and Earth. Most surprisingly to the Vorg, the treaty included substantial aid to help them address resource shortages in their home systems, the very shortages that had driven their expansion in the first place. "You would help us after we tried to slaughter your allies?" Vrax asked Admiral Kim during a break in the formal negotiations. "I don't understand your species." Kim looked at the Vorg commander thoughtfully. "Our history books are filled with enemies who became friends, Commander. We've learned that lasting peace comes not from crushing your opponents, but from helping them find a better path forward." As the final treaty was signed, an unexpected gesture came from the Ardelians. High Chancellor Lin stepped forward with a small crystal container holding seedlings from their homeworld. "These are memory trees," she explained to the Vorg commander. "They grow only when nurtured by different species working together. We offer them as a symbol of what might be possible, even after such darkness." Vrax looked at the delicate plants, then at the Ardelian whose people his forces had nearly destroyed. Slowly, hesitantly, he accepted the gift. It was a small moment, but those watching felt its importance. The next day, as the Vorg vessels prepared to depart, Admiral Kim and Commander Park stood with the Ardelian leadership on the observation deck. Below them, Earth medical ships continued their work helping the injured and rebuilding critical infrastructure. "You could have destroyed them all," High Chancellor Lin said quietly. "Many of my people wanted you to." Admiral Kim nodded. "Many of our people wanted that too. Revenge is a powerful instinct, but not as powerful as wisdom," Lin replied. She turned to face the human officers. "The galaxy has misunderstood your species for generations. They saw your art, your music, your scientific achievements, and thought you were primarily creators. They saw your conflicts and thought you were primarily destroyers. But you are neither." "What are we then?" Commander Park asked. "Protectors," Lin said simply, "unlike any the stars have seen before." As the last Vorg ships disappeared into hyperspace, High Chancellor Lin requested to address not just her own people, but all nearby worlds that might be listening. The Ardelians had rarely communicated with the wider galaxy before, preferring their quiet exploration and scientific pursuits. But today was different. Her message was broadcast across dozens of star systems, reaching species who had only heard rumors about the conflict between humans and the Vorg. "To all who hear these words," she began, her voice clear and strong, "I speak to you as one who has witnessed both terrible destruction and remarkable courage. The Vorg Imperium attacked our worlds without provocation or warning. They showed no mercy to our civilians, our children. We had no defenses, no weapons with which to protect ourselves." She paused, looking at Admiral Kim and Commander Park, who stood respectfully to the side. "But we had friends. When humans from Earth learned of our plight, they did not hesitate. They did not calculate political advantages or demand payment for their aid. They simply came, facing an enemy far more numerous than themselves, because they believed it was right." The camera panned across the rebuilt sections of the capital city, where humans and Ardelians worked side by side. Many species have wondered about humans. Some feared them because of the violence in their past. Others dismissed them, believing their technological displays were their true capabilities. All were wrong. Behind humanity's achievements lies a protective instinct unlike any in the universe, not because they seek conflict, but because they understand its price better than anyone. As her message concluded, ships from a dozen curious species began arriving in the system, eager to meet these humans who had challenged the mighty Vorg and then chosen mercy over vengeance. Admiral Kim watched them arrive from the bridge of the Abahekdu. "It seems we've caught the galaxy's attention," he said to Commander Park. Park nodded. "For better or worse, the universe now knows what humanity is truly capable of." "And what we stand for," Kim added. "That's what matters most."